or never. Or never.
Okay, you can go ahead and let people in now.
Both participants.
So, hello everybody. Thank you for joining our service tonight. Let me just get back to, there we are. I want to welcome you all once again for our community's annual Holocaust Remembrance service. By you being here tonight, it shows that you've renewed your own pledge, your own commitment to remember and to share in this time together as we contemplate the incredible loss of the unique events of the Holocaust. And it's a time that we remember our personal loss and our Jewish community's loss, but also there are people here with us tonight who are here because they understand the significance of this loss and this tragedy to humanity. So the full name, I guess I should introduce myself if you don't know me. I'm Rabbi Janice Mehring, and I'm in Atascadero here at Congregation Ort Safon. The full name of this observance, this day of remembrance, is Yom HaShoah v'HaGevurah. So the remembrance of the Holocaust and of the heroism. And the original Hebrew date that was chosen to fall on the anniversary of the Warsaw Ghetto uprising, because we want to not only remember the victims of the Shoah, but we also want to remember and pay tribute to the Jewish heroes and the incredible acts of bravery that occurred despite unbelievable oppression. So just wanted to mention, to start us off tonight in our remembrance, to mention about the Warsaw Ghetto. On April 14th of 1943, the German soldiers entered the ghetto with the goal to destroy the ghetto and murder all the Jews that were there. And against all odds, those soldiers were met with Jewish resistance. They had underground groups had formed, and they came together to resist the Germans. They had weapons, true, not the same kinds of arsenal that the German soldiers had, but weapons nonetheless. And they fought back with handguns and small explosives, and they held the Germans at bay for a month. 4 weeks of resistance, which was unbelievable. But despite all of that, on May 16th, 1943, the uprising was ended and 7,000 Jews were killed. And I wanted to share with you some words from the leader of the uprising, Mordechai Anilovich. He wrote this to a friend on April 23rd, so just a couple of weeks before the ghetto was destroyed. And he said, "Be well, my friend. Perhaps we will see one another again. The most important thing is that my life's dream has come true. Jewish self-defense in the ghetto has been realized. Jewish retaliation and resistance has become a fact, and I have been witness to the magnificent, heroic battle of the Jewish fighters." So I wanted to share with you a song. At the same time, a poet in another ghetto, in the Vilna ghetto, that's poet Hirsch Glick, he heard about the Warsaw Ghetto uprising and was inspired to write the poem Zog nit Kenmol, Song of the Partisans. The partisans were in the forests of Belarus and Lithuania and Poland, and they sang this song. This was their anthem, to fortify themselves, to bring about their courage and celebrate their victories that they were having against the Nazis. And they stood up, they fought back, and they gave their lives to defend the Jewish community. So we honor the partisans tonight. We honor the partisans on this day as well, and we remember them and are inspired by them still. So I want to share with you the words in English, and then also we'll listen to the children of the Tallinn Jewish School in Estonia sing this very moving and important hymn. So.
Never say that there is only death for you, though leaden skies may be concealing days of blue. For the hour that we have hungered for is near. Beneath our tread, the earth shall tremble. We are here. From land of palm tree to the far-off land of snow, we shall be coming with our torment and our woe, and everywhere our blood has sunk into the earth, shall our bravery, our vigour blossom forth. We'll have the morning sun to set our days aglow, and all our yesterdays shall vanish with the foe. And if the time is long before the sun appears, then let this song go like a signal through the years. This song was written with our blood and not with lead. It's not a song that birds sing overhead. It was a people among toppling barricades that sang this song of ours with pistols and grenades. So never say that there is only death for you, though leaden skies may be concealing days of blue. For the hour that we have hungered for is near. Beneath our tread, the earth shall tremble. We are here.
So you can see it's such a powerful anthem, and it takes on a very different character when sung in the voices of children. You can find those voices of children singing that song from all over the world. There's compilations of the ORT schools, the ORT schools, singing that hymn, and it's really inspiring in all different languages, and of course that's in Yiddish. So I also, on this night, when we are remembering survivors and survivor stories, we are also remembering the righteous among the nations, the righteous Gentiles who have been recognized by Yad Vashem, the Israel's Holocaust Memorial Museum, recognized for risking their lives to aid Jews during the Holocaust. And these are people from very diverse backgrounds. They are Christians of all denominations, they are Muslims, they are atheists, and some were very high-ranking diplomats who used their power to secure papers for Jews, and others were farmers who helped hide Jews on their property. So I am joined by some of our young adults, as is our tradition at Congregation Orthophone, who are going to share some of these righteous souls' stories. And so we'll be joined by Daniel Becker, Drew Daner, Tanner Fry, and William Mehring. And readers, we will unmute you. And let's start with Daniel. I'm going to share the screen so you can see pictures of who they're talking about.
Okay.
One second.
I'm going to start with, yeah. Okay. The Portuguese diplomat Aristides de Sousa Mendes was his country's consul general in Bordeaux, France. The German occupation prompted tens of thousands of refugees, including thousands of Jews, to flee southward from the north in the hope of exiting France via the only remaining avenue of escape, the southern border into Spain and Portugal, and then sailing for America. The Portuguese dictator Antonio de Oliveira Salazar permitted holders of visas for overseas to transit through Portugal, but closed the borders to refugees without visas, thus shutting the last avenue of hope. Some 30,000 refugees, including 10,000 Jews, were desperately trying to obtain the piece of paper that would extricate them from France. Sousa Mendes, a devout and good-hearted Catholic, decided to help the refugees despite his government's orders. He promised Rabbi Chaim Kruger to issue transit visas to everyone in need, adding that those who could not pay the fees would receive them at no charge. He then set up an improvised office in the consulate and, with the help of 2 of his sons and several Jews who were waiting nearby, began to issue transit permits. A rumor about Sousa Mendes's actions reached Lisbon, which summarily ordered him to return to his homeland at once. The Portuguese government dismissed Sousa Mendes from his position in the foreign ministry and left him destitute and unable to support his large family. He explained his actions: if thousands of Jews are suffering because of one Christian, Hitler, surely one Christian may suffer for so many Jews. Sousa Mendes died penniless in 1954. Not until 1988, thanks to external pressure and his children's efforts, did his government grant his family total restitution. On October 18, 1966, Yad Vashem recognized Aristides de Sousa Mendes as righteous among the nations.
Thank you, Daniel. Tanner, would you like to read about Dr. Ella Lingens?
Sure. A little over half the righteous among the nations recognized by Yad Vashem are women. Here is the story of one of them. Dr. Ella Lingens and her husband Kurt were both physicians who lived in Vienna at the end of the 1930s. Kurt Lingens was an anti-fascist born in 1912 in Dusseldorf, Germany, and was barred by the Nazi authorities from studying in German universities because of his anti-fascist activities as a student. Ella, born in Vienna in 1908, had a doctoral degree in law and studied medicine at the local university. When the Nazis annexed Austria, she began to help Jews, especially students that she knew through her studies. During the Kristallnacht riots, she hid 10 Jews in her room. The Lingenses hid a young Jewish woman, Erika Felden, in their apartment over the period of several months in 1941 and 1942. The Lingenses' home continued to be a place of refuge for the couple's Jewish friends. Of those who managed to reach the apartment, some asked Kurt and Ella to care for their valuables so they wouldn't be looted. Others asked the Lingenses to use their connections to help them escape the Nazis. One of the connections, a Jewish former stage actor named Rudolf Klinger, was later proven to be an informer who reported on the Lingenses' activity in the Gestapo. On October 13, 1942, they were arrested. Kurt Lingens was assigned to a unit made up of soldiers who were sent to the Russia front as a form of punishment for various crimes. While at the front, he was seriously wounded. Ella Lingens was sent to Auschwitz, where she was put to work as a doctor of the camp inmates and managed to save a number of Jews from death in the gas chambers. She was sent on a death march from Auschwitz to Dachau and managed to survive until the end of the war. On January 3rd, 1980, Yad Vashem recognized Kurt Lingens and Ella Lingens as righteous among the nations.
Thank you. Drew, how about if you read next? Hang on just a second and we'll unmute you. Do you see her, Jerome? Let's see if I can see her.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yep, there you go.
Okay. It's on the 23rd of March, 1943, when the expulsion of Jews from Thessaloniki to Auschwitz began, the Archbishop of Athens published an outspoken condemnation of the deportation of Greece's Jews. I have taken up my cross, the Archbishop proclaimed. I spoke to the Lord and made up my mind to save as many Jewish souls as possible. On the 9th of September, 1943, a German force landed on the island of Zakynthos. The German commander ordered the Greek mayor to provide him with a list of the local Jews so that they could be deported to the mainland and from there to the camps in Poland. The mayor went to the local church leader, Dimitrios Chrysostomos, for assistance. Following his church's leader, Chrysostomos volunteered to negotiate with the Germans and told the mayor to burn the list of the island's 275 Jews. He then approached the German commander and implored him not to deport the Jews. The Jews were Greek citizens, he argued. They had done no harm to their neighbors and did not deserve to be punished by deportation. When the German would not listen and insisted upon receiving the list of all local Jews, Chrysostomos took a piece of paper, wrote his own name on it, and handed it over. Here is the list of Jews you require, he said. The Chrysostomos and the mayor then went to warn the Jews of the imminent danger, urging them to go into hiding in the mountains. Most of the island's Jews survived the Holocaust. In 1948, in recognition of the rescue of the community during the Holocaust, the Jewish community donated stained glass for the windows of the island's church of St. Dionysios. On January 1st, 1978, Yad Vashem recognized Dimitrios Chrysostomos as righteous among the nations.
Thanks, Drew. Drew's at college, right? Yes, she's in Iowa, Ohio. Where are you? Wait.
Indiana, very close.
Indiana. So Drew is an alumna of our COT Torah School, and so is this next young man. William is going to read next. Good to have you, Drew. Thank you.
Tatiana Minkovskaya was only 20 years old when the war between Germany and the USSR started. At the time, she was living alone in Kherson, Ukraine, and among her neighbors were Reuven and Rivka Kopoleva, a couple in their 50s. In early summer 1941, the Kopoleva's daughter, Sarah, came from Turkmenistan for a visit, bringing her 8-month-old daughter, Nellie, with her. Sarah and Nellie did not manage to return home before the German occupation of Kherson on August 19, 1941. By the end of September, the Jews were forced out of their homes and taken to killing pits outside the city. Tatiana watched the column of the doomed walking slowly along the streets. Suddenly, her eyes met the eyes of Sarah Kopoleva. Sarah put the baby into Tatiana's hands and asked Tatiana to save her. Tatiana hurried home, hiding little Nellie, and from that day on cared for the child as if she were her own daughter. In 1943, Tatiana and Nellie were deported to forced labor in Germany. On the ship that carried them and hundreds of others through the Black Sea, Tatiana met her future husband, Nikifor Kurochka. Near the shore, the ship was bombed and many of the passengers were killed. Tatiana, Nellie, and Nikifor were among those that survived and reached the Romanian shore. The road back to Kherson took many months. The three of them suffered from hunger and cold, but survived and reached their home city, which was liberated by the Red Army in March of 1944. After the war, Tatiana and Nikifor married and adopted Nellie officially. Tatiana and Nikifor did not have any other children. Many years later, when Nellie, by then Zaslavskaya, was retired, she immigrated to Israel with her daughter and grandchildren. On June 26, 2005, Yad Vashem recognized Tatiana Minkovskaya and Nikifor Kurochka as righteous among the nations.
Thank you, William. So here they are, Tatiana and Nikifor with Nellie as she grew. So I wanted to share with you this poem that was written by Ronnie Yeager. He wrote a Yizkor poem for the righteous among the nations. We don't always think about saying Yizkor for non-Jews, and yet this poem, this prayer that he wrote, really embodies all that we feel for these selfless people that saved so many Jews. People of Israel, remember the righteous Gentiles who have placed their own lives in danger for our sake and who were as shining stars in the overwhelming darkness of evil. Those who spoke out a time of silence and those who offered sanctuary. Those who extended a helping hand, food, and clothing, and who answered the cry of men, women, and children. Workers of the land and city dwellers, men and women of humble standing and of high rank, people of faith and conscience. In the very valley of the shadow of death, these men and women stood by our people, and from the fiery inferno, they saved the few and the many. And where there were no human beings, they were human. People of Israel, remember their grandness of spirit, their heroism and their pure hearts. May God bind their souls in the bundle of life, and may it come to pass as it was written in the book of Proverbs, as the whirlwind passes, so is the wicked no more, but the righteous are an everlasting foundation. Amen. Let's all read together. I know you're reading at home, muted. Let's all read our prayer of memory, El Male Rachamim. This is a slightly different translation, but again, our intentions are to remember. This is talking about the 6 million Jews that were killed. We also hold in our prayer those 5 million others that were also killed, which we'll mention in a prayer yet to read. So if you're able to rise, please do so. You can join me in reading. God, full of mercy, you who dwell in the heights, grant perfect peace under the wings of your presence to the souls of our 6 million brothers and sisters murdered because they were Jews. Source of mercy, they revered your name and their souls passed into your care. Let Eden be their resting place. Bind their souls to the living and to life. Adonai, you are their inheritance. May they rest with ease and peace. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hametzeh Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanfei Hashchina, B'ma'alot Kedoshim U'Tahorim, Kezohar Harakia, Mazhirim. Et nishmot 6 million, Achenu v'achoyotenu, Shenehergu al Kiddush Hashem. Baal harachamim, Yastirem beseter, Kenafav leolamim. V'yitzror bitzror, Hachayim et nishmatam, Adonai hu nachalatam. V'yanuchu b'shalom al mishkavam, V'nomar Amen. And while we're still standing, we'll recite the Kaddish. Le Yom HaShoah Kaddish was penned by Elie Wiesel of blessed memory, where he wrote the names of the concentration camps intertwined with the words of Kaddish. And Kaddish, as many of you know, is a prayer that we say in memory, and yet there's no mention of the dead. The prayer is all about praise and elevating God's name, and we say this despite the tragedy, despite the loss. And so we're going to say the Kaddish, and if you want to follow along the words of and names of the concentration camps, I invite you to do that. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, Bi'alma divrah chirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach leolam ulomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yit hadar v'yit aleh v'yit halal shemed kudisha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemaya v'chaim alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom alenu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. You could be seated. I just wanted to share a few words tonight. You know, we used to say that in 25 years, there likely will be either not very many or no Holocaust survivors who are able to provide firsthand testimony. But I want to say that I see at least 3 of them here tonight with us, and how honored we are to have them and have them in our community and in our hearts, to still be able to share their stories with us. But unfortunately, the coronavirus has really fast-tracked the loss of these blessed storytellers. And what will happen when they are not here to tell their stories? There won't be people to say, I was there. I know I was there. There won't be people to show tattooed numbers on their arms or to recount their stories of deportation and relocation and loss. And there won't be people that can firsthand can rebut Holocaust deniers and revisionists who just continue to perpetuate these anti-Semitic tropes. So what will we do when we don't have the survivors to tell the story? According to the ADL, in 2019 and 20, there were 11,208 incidents of extremism or anti-Semitism in the United States. 11,208. And that is a significant increase since even just the year before. And at the same time, when we look at what happens in Europe, 74% increase in anti-Semitic incidents in France, 60% increase in Germany, and even more disturbing than those figures, as if those weren't enough, a recent poll showed that while 89% of European Jews felt that anti-Semitism had significantly increased over the past 5 years, only 36% of the general population felt it had. 36%. So, it becomes the obligation of every one of us to speak out, to scream out, if you will, and to tell the truth. Not in generalities, but in details, to speak out and tell the stories. So if you have survivors in your family, make sure you know their stories. If you don't have survivors in your family, we have survivors in our community that we can learn their stories to be able to retell them, or we can learn about stories of others. We can memorize them, commit them to our hearts, remember them at Yizkor services so that we can share them with the world. Because you and I, very soon, we will be the ones left to testify. So I want to share one survivor story with you. As you know, it has been our tradition in San Luis Obispo County Jewish community to invite survivors to tell their stories. I thought it was fitting to tell this story in this time of COVID. So Rabbi Romy Cohen, He was born in Pressburg, Czechoslovakia in 1929. And when the Nazis invaded, he was only 10 years old. So his family escaped into Hungary. But soon after that, the Nazis took over Hungary. So at 16 years old, Romy returned home to Czechoslovakia, and this time he was carrying forged papers. They were Christian ID papers, and he became an informal member of the underground at age 16. He helped find housing for Jewish refugees and supplied them with false papers. He was quite the forger, it seems, because he had a connection to someone working at Gestapo headquarters, and that person gave him German seals so he could stamp the documents to make them look very, very authentic. And in total, he's credited with saving 56 Jewish families. Eventually, he was arrested. He was arrested on suspicion of carrying false documents. And after a daring escape from that captivity, he went and joined the partisans hiding in the forest. Now, in order to get there, he forged a German military travel order that sent him to the last German outpost before the partisan-controlled territory. And he later recalled, the Germans, they shook my hand, they wished me luck, they thought I was going to strike a blow for the Reich. So by the time he had joined the partisans, the Germans were in retreat, and his brigade drove them back westward while capturing and interrogating the SS officers. So after the war, Romy came to the United States. He became a great Jewish scholar and rabbi and a moil. It's said that he performed thousands of brisses in his career as a moil. And he also financed the education of 70 rabbinic students in Israel. And he thought of them as his own grandchildren. And I'm sorry to say that Rabbi Romy Cohen died on March 21st of 2020 due to complications from the coronavirus. So we mourn his loss, and of course all of those that we have lost in this past year. I think you may be familiar with the poem about the last butterfly, but there's another that was written on a wall in Theresienstadt. But there was a number of years ago, and I wish I could tell you the author, but I couldn't find it. At a UN Holocaust commemoration ceremony, there was a somewhat different poem read, and I want to read that to you because it has deep meaning for me as we contemplate how we will be the witnesses, how we will be the ones to tell the stories. Here's how this poem goes. I am the last one left. I remained a human being even when I was just a number. I am like the burning bush, but you will remain here to tell the story. I am the last one left, and I call out to you. You will remain here to tell the story. There are millions of eyes staring at me now. How can I give up? I am the last one left to tell the story. So that's my message for all of us tonight, you and I and our children. We are the ones. It's incumbent upon us to tell the story. So I want to offer this final blessing adapted from a teaching by a friend of mine, Rabbi Pam Friedman. And she writes, for those who have suffered and endured torture and murder all over the world in the name of ethnic cleansing, in the name of scapegoating, in the name of, I have the power and you do not, may their memories all be a blessing, together with the memory of the 6 million Jews and 6 million others whose lives were lost during one of humanity's darkest hours. For those who survived the Holocaust and passed from this world after the Holocaust, may they always be remembered together with their stories and their courage. And again, for those survivors that are among us in our community and of course here with us tonight, may their lives be full of blessing. May we continue to be blessed to know them and to remember with them. So I'm so glad to have you all here with me tonight. We can still come together as a community to remember. Just like at Passover, we say next year in person. let's not wait till next year to have these moments of memory, to have these moments of sharing our stories, to listening to our elders so that we can internalize their stories and continue to share them and bring them forward. So I want to just again show you Rabbi Romy Cohen's story, his picture, so you can see him. And we'll see if I can end with a video of Ani Ma'amin, I Still Believe. There's Rabbi Cohen. Okay, so hold on just a minute. We'll start here.
אני מאמין, אני מאמין, אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח, אני מאמין, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח, אני מאמין.
אני מאמין, אני מאמין, אני מאמין, באמונה שלמה, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח, אני מאמין, בביאת המשיח, בביאת המשיח, אני מאמין.
So I'm wishing you all well. I'm wishing you all health and safety and peace as we move forward. And I'm going to stop the YouTube live stream. And if you want to, we'll make it so you can unmute if anybody wants to say hello. But I'm thinking of all of you, and I'm looking forward to very, very